In September 2000, two desperate men flew to Dallas with a proposal that would change history. Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph walked into the 27th floor boardroom of Blockbuster headquarters, exhausted and running out of cash. Their offer was simple, proposing to sell their struggling company Netflix for $50 million. The room went silent before John Antioco, the CEO of the most powerful video rental chain on earth, finally smiled. He refused the offer and struggled not to laugh in their faces. That laugh cost him everything. Netflix is now a $350 billion empire, while Blockbuster is nothing but a memory. Blockbuster looked invincible at the turn of the millennium. The brand was more than a store because it was a weekly ritual for millions of families. Blue and yellow signs lit up strip malls across America on Friday nights, promising the latest Hollywood hits. The company felt untouchable with 9,000 stores globally and nearly $6 billion in annual revenue. They controlled the entertainment industry with an iron grip while crushing thousands of local independent shops. Renting a movie happened on their terms. You paid if you were late or failed to rewind. They possessed the cash, the real estate, and the customers. A tiny mail order service like Netflix looked like a gnat on the windshield of a semi-truck to them. Netflix in 2000 was not the streaming giant we know now. It was a chaotic, money-losing disaster. The dot-com bubble had burst, wiping out investor confidence overnight, and the company burned cash faster than it could earn revenue. Their model relied on the US Postal Service, shipping heavy DVDs in red envelopes that often arrived cracked or late. Few understood the business because people wanted movies immediately rather than 3 days later. Reed Hastings was a worried founder trying to save his sinking ship rather than a genius strategist. The $50 million price tag was a lifeline instead of a calculated valuation. They wanted to hand over the keys and go home with a check rather than conquer Blockbuster. The meeting itself was brief, brutal, and lacked foresight. Hastings and Randolph pitched a partnership where Netflix would run Blockbuster's online brand, while Blockbuster promoted Netflix in their physical stores. This arrangement seemed logical, but John Antioco saw zero value in the proposal. His team presented numbers, showing the online business was a small segment that would never turn a profit. Hastings then asked for $50 million. Randolph watched Antioco's face closely and saw the corner of the CEO's mouth twitch. The subsequent laughter signaled the old guard dismissing the future. They were politely escorted out and left the skyscraper with nothing but their humiliation. The mood on the flight back to California should have been somber because they had failed and lost their exit strategy. However, the humiliation in that cabin transformed into a cold resolve. Blockbuster had treated the internet like a passing fad rather than simply rejecting the offer. That arrogance convinced Hastings that the industry leader was blind. Netflix decided they had to defeat Blockbuster since a buyout was impossible. They focused entirely on features the retail chain couldn't offer, including no due dates, no late fees, and a customer-friendly subscription model. The $50 million rejection woke them up instead of breaking them. Blockchain-Buster relied on a hidden revenue source because they operated in the penalty business as much as the movie rental business. The company generated $800 million annually from late fees alone by the early 2000s, which accounted for nearly 16% of their total revenue. Their most profitable customer was simply someone who forgot to return a tape. This created a perverse incentive where they could not switch to a subscription model like Netflix because their shareholders depended on that revenue. Customers grew to resent the brand every time they paid a $40 late fee for a movie like Apollo 13. Blockbuster remained profitable by destroying their own reputation. Technology quietly advanced, while Blockbuster focused on opening more stores. The DVD player became the fastest adopted consumer electronic in history, outpacing the VCR and color TV. Netflix capitalized on this shift because a DVD was light, durable, and cheap to mail. Blockbuster struggled because their entire infrastructure was designed for heavy, fragile VHS tapes. Their shelves were stocked with cassettes, and retrofitting thousands of stores for discs required time and money they refused to spend. Netflix simply bought discs since they lacked real estate burdens. They leveraged the explosion of a hardware revolution that Blockbuster treated as an afterthought. The laughter stopped by 2004, as Netflix became public, profitable, and acquired thousands of customers. John Antioco finally recognized the threat and launched Blockbuster Online, which succeeded surprisingly well. They utilized their massive store network advantage to introduce a program eventually named Total Access. Customers could rent a DVD online, receive it in the mail, and then return it to a physical store for an immediate free rental. This strategy effectively combined web convenience with in-store gratification. Netflix had no answer for this move, and Reed Hastings became the worried party for the first time. Blockbuster was gaining ground, but the financial cost was high because Total Access was expensive to maintain. Providing free movies and running an online platform reduced profits and cost the company hundreds of millions in the short term. The legendary activist investor Carl Icahn then bought a large stake in Blockbuster and demanded immediate results. He focused on the current stock price rather than the long-term competition with Netflix. Icahn reviewed the finances, saw the losses from the online division, and demanded changes because he believed Antioco was wasting money on a small market. The board sided with the investor. They focused on the immediate financial losses rather than investing in their own survival. The internal friction became overwhelming in 2007, and the board pushed out John Antioco after he built a strategy to defeat Netflix. His replacement was James Keyes, the former CEO of 7-Eleven. Keyes was a skilled retail leader, but was ill-suited for digital competition. He viewed Blockbuster as a store full of snacks and soda, rather than a digital media company. One of his first moves involved cutting the marketing budget for Total Access and raising prices for online rentals. He refocused the company on selling merchandise in physical locations, effectively signaling that he prioritized retail sales over internet growth. Cutting the online budget was a mistake, but the subsequent decisions were even worse. James Keyes made a baffling move in 2008 by trying to buy the failing electronics retailer Circuit City, while Netflix prepared to launch streaming. He wanted to sell devices that Blockbuster movies could play on, prioritizing hardware ownership over digital distribution. This strategy was obsolete compared to the market direction. The bid failed, but it demonstrated the leadership's confusion. They focused on preserving a dying retail model while Reed Hastings built a faster, more modern service. The year 2007 marked a decisive shift. Netflix introduced a feature called Watch Now, which offered a small library of low-quality streaming movies included with the DVD subscription. The service was clunky but instant, and customers loved it. Blockbuster could not follow because they held billions in debt and had a CEO who prioritized physical retail. As broadband speeds increased, that bonus feature became the primary product. Netflix evolved from a mail service into a digital utility. Blockbuster still required customers to drive to physical stores, while Netflix offered instant access at home. The end arrived slowly rather than suddenly. The 2008 financial crisis made Blockbuster's massive debt load impossible to manage. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in September 2010. The once valuable stock was worthless. Dish Network bought the remaining assets for a fraction of the company's former value, hoping to salvage the business. But the brand could not be saved. The stores that once defined American weekends began to close across the country. The lights went out, and the Be Kind rewind stickers were removed from the windows. Permanently. The empire that once had 9,000 locations has been reduced to exactly 1 as of January 2026. A single Blockbuster franchise remains open in Bend, Oregon. It functions more as a time capsule than a traditional business. Tourists visit to smell the plastic cases and buy t-shirts in search of nostalgia. The location survived because of local support and determination, outliving the corporation that created it. Rumors of its closure appear every year, but the neon sign in Bend remains active. It stands as a monument to a vanished era and a physical reminder of the consequences of failing to innovate. Netflix has evolved into a global media giant, while that last store remains in Oregon. They have over 325 million subscribers and a market cap near $350 billion, making them the establishment they once fought. They operate as both a tech company and a Hollywood studio that wins Oscars and influences culture. They survived the streaming competition against Disney and Amazon, establishing themselves as a primary way the world watches TV. The $50 million they asked for in 2000 would not even cover the catering budget for one of their current hit shows. The scale of their success is immense. Business schools will teach this story for years because of the psychology rather than the technology. Blockbuster failed because their past success made them arrogant. They protected the old way of doing things instead of inventing new methods. John Antiocho's laugh in that boardroom was a symptom of a company that had stopped listening. They believed they were the industry leaders and forgot that the business landscape changes constantly. Companies that fail to adapt eventually disappear. The $50 million mistake concerned vision rather than money. Two men walked into a room with a future-defining proposal, and the established industry leaders dismissed them. This event serves as a reminder that no company is too big to fail. Please subscribe for more stories about business empires if you enjoyed this analysis. Remember that Netflix almost belonged to Blockbuster the next time you watch a movie. Thank you for watching!